The lights of fame shine brightly on stage. Yet in the shadows, whispers tell another story. Headlines praise success, wealth, and glamour. But behind the curtain, symbols repeat like coded messages. A hand gesture here, a stage backdrop there. Have you ever noticed how the same patterns appear again and again? Since the 1980s, declassified reports have hinted at secret societies shaping the entertainment industry, from the Thule Order to the infamous Illuminati. Coincidence or design? Mind control is not always forced. Sometimes it's disguised as art, as spectacle. Hidden symbols slip unnoticed into music videos, world tours, and award shows. Occult rituals dressed as choreography. Hidden technology woven into performances that captivate millions. Did you ever wonder why certain stars rise overnight, and why their careers collapse just as suddenly? What you'll discover may surprise you. Fame itself may not be a personal achievement, but the result of silent agreements with unseen powers. Imagine the stage as an altar, the crowd chanting in unison, the lights pulsing like a coded signal. Secret societies have always understood that culture shapes minds faster than politics ever could. And if they could control the symbols that the world consumes, they could influence thought on a global scale. Have you felt it? That sense that entertainment is more than entertainment, that something hidden lies beneath the surface. In this journey, we'll explore the connections, the patterns, the rituals that few dare to speak of. Stay with me as we lift the curtain on the world's most celebrated icons and the forces that may be pulling their strings. Write in the comments, I see the hidden signs. And now, let's step deeper into the shadows, where the truth waits to be uncovered. The stage was set, lights flashing, millions watching. And yet, something else was unfolding, hidden in plain sight. In the so-called Geneva archives of 1997, there is a curious entry, a reference to one of the most watched shows on Earth, the Super Bowl halftime performance. Among the usual notes of choreography and spectacle, a description stands out. It speaks of Beyoncé, still early in her career, participating in a sequence that mirrored an ancient rite. Hands raised in the form of a triangle, dancers moving like puppets pulled by invisible strings, and above it all, the unmistakable projection of the all-seeing eye, burning across the stadium in cold beams of laser light. For the critics, it was art. For others, it was the unveiling of an occult ritual broadcast directly into the living rooms of millions. This is where the line between entertainment and mind control begins to blur, because symbols are never random. Secret societies have long understood the power of repeated imagery, of hidden symbols that bypass logic and speak directly to the subconscious. A triangle is never just a triangle, a pyramid never just a shape. The eye that never blinks, etched into history from Egyptian temples to Masonic halls, suddenly appears again in the most influential stage of modern culture. Coincidence? Or a carefully coded message? Think of it. When millions repeat the same chants, mimic the same gestures, follow the same idols, they are no longer simply spectators. They become participants. Psychological influence transforms into collective ritual, and that's where hidden power thrives, in the shadows of mass gatherings. Occult rituals don't need cloaks and candles. Sometimes they only need music, choreography, and a stage that feels safe. But beneath the surface, forbidden knowledge is being rehearsed in plain sight. And we clap without realizing the depth of the manipulation. Have you ever felt a strange pull when watching a performance, as if something unseen was guiding your emotions, amplifying your heartbeat, stealing your focus? This is how a dark agenda spreads, not with open force, but with layers of the unseen, ancient codes wrapped inside the spectacle of modernity. And once these images enter your mind, they linger. They shape thought, plant ideas, alter perception. That's the true essence of mind control. Not chains, not prisons, but invisible threads weaving through your consciousness. Write in the comments, I will not be controlled. The Geneva files hint at more. Descriptions of meetings where cultural icons were briefed about symbols they must include, rituals they must repeat, signs they must display, all masked as creativity, but each detail carrying weight, carrying intent. And when we trace these details across decades, a pattern emerges. The same eye, the same gestures, the same structures of power moving beneath the surface. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if one performance could carry this much hidden meaning, what about the countless others that followed? What else has been placed before us, coded into sound and light, waiting for those with awakened eyes to notice? The truth may be far closer than we think, and far darker than we've ever been told. When Jay-Z raises his hands in that familiar gesture, the rock sign, most see it as branding, as part of the show. But what if that triangle is not just a logo? Historical archives trace this exact symbol back to Masonic temples in Paris, carved into stone as early as 1763. The resemblance is not accidental. Secret societies have always relied on hidden symbols to communicate allegiance, power, and access to forbidden knowledge. And when these signs reappear centuries later, attached to the face of global culture, it suggests a legacy carefully maintained in the shadows. The rock sign, repeated in videos, concerts, and photographs, becomes more than a personal trademark. It evolves into a ritual gesture, a signal that bypasses skepticism and imprints itself in the collective subconscious. Mind control, after all, does not require words. A shape repeated, a gesture performed under the flashing lights, can speak louder than entire speeches. It is not entertainment, it is initiation, carried out before millions who watch without realizing they are witnessing an echo of occult rituals older than modern music itself. The Tavistock Project, a name that surfaces in leaked documents from 2004, is even more unsettling. These files suggest that Jay-Z's record label experimented with subliminal messages embedded in tracks, combined with beats tuned to specific frequencies that trigger euphoria, altered states of consciousness, heightened suggestibility. Music in this light is not just rhythm. It is psychological influence, engineered to manipulate desire, consumption, even thought patterns. The audience, lost in sound, becomes vulnerable. Have you ever felt your mood change instantly with a song? Your heartbeat aligning with the pulse of the music? That effect can be amplified, directed, weaponized. The implications are staggering. If one artist, supported by the machinery of secret societies and guided by ancient codes, can alter perception on such a scale, imagine the reach when dozens, even hundreds, are woven into the same network. It is not about talent alone. It is about obedience to the unseen. Those who play by the rules of the dark agenda rise. Those who resist vanish from the spotlight. Write in the comments, "I see the signs." In this web of manipulation, Jay-Z becomes both symbol and vessel. The rock sign aligns him with the legacy of hidden power, while the Tavistock frequencies align his audience with states they never chose. And yet, the narrative is dressed as art, as culture, as harmless entertainment. That is the brilliance of conspiracies that operate in plain sight. By hiding behind the familiar, they make questioning seem absurd, but those who dare to look closely notice the patterns repeating, the ancient codes resurfacing, the forbidden knowledge rebranded as fashion. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if the rock sign is indeed a relic of a Masonic lineage, and if music has been engineered to bend emotions, what else has been seeded into our culture under the mask of creativity? What truths lie in the shadows of the very songs we hum, the images we idolize, the rhythms we let guide our steps? And more importantly, who is orchestrating it all from behind the veil? When Lady Gaga steps onto a stage, she rarely appears as just an artist. The costumes shimmer like relics of forgotten temples, robes that echo the attire of ancient priestesses, adorned with horns, veils, and symbols drawn from mythologies that predate the modern world. To most, it feels like eccentric fashion. But to those who have studied the language of hidden symbols, the imagery resembles something else entirely. Fragments of liturgy, gestures echoing occult rituals that have been whispered about for centuries. A performance, yes, but also a reenactment of rites that secret societies have preserved in the shadows of history. The so-called Berlin Ritual 2011 is one of the most disturbing accounts. Described in insider reports that surfaced years later, it paints a scene unlike any traditional concert. A private gathering, a hall lined with black candles, attendees wearing golden masks, their identities concealed. In the center, fragments of the Book of Enoch read aloud in tones that mixed chant with invocation. Lady Gaga was at the heart of it, moving not as a singer entertaining fans, but as a vessel channeling a script older than her music, older than modern culture itself. Critics dismissed it as avant-garde art. Yet the question lingers: why do so many of these symbols match rituals catalogued in esoteric manuscripts? Why do the details align so precisely with forbidden knowledge guarded by secret societies? The repetition cannot be accidental. Ancient codes were never meant to be spoken to the masses. They were designed to be preserved in closed circles, transmitted through signs, symbols, and liturgies. And yet, here they are, embedded in global pop culture, disguised as creativity. This is the sleight of hand at the core of modern manipulation. The audience sees shock value, but beneath it lies initiation. The veils, the horns, the masks, the flames, each piece part of an unseen choreography. A symbolic language where every gesture serves a purpose, every costume hides an intention, every light pattern mimics the cadence of rituals buried in centuries of secrecy. Mind control works best when no one suspects it, and in music, the line between art and psychological influence is razor thin. Lady Gaga's performances often leave viewers enthralled, unsettled, or strangely moved. Have you ever felt that her shows carry a weight beyond music? A charge that resonates in ways you can't quite explain? That's not coincidence, it's design. Occult rituals are built to bypass reason and strike directly at emotion. When symbols repeat across performances, across artists, across decades, they shape the collective psyche. And shaping the psyche is the first step toward controlling it. The Berlin event was not televised, yet its echoes reached the mainstream soon after. Dark masks appeared in her official videos. Black and gold aesthetics dominated stage designs, and lyrics began weaving mythological references alongside themes of submission and rebirth. To some, it was creative daring. To others, it was evidence of a dark agenda infiltrating culture under the guise of performance. Secret societies have always thrived in this subtlety, hiding forbidden knowledge in plain sight, waiting for the few who awaken to recognize the signs. Think about it. Why would a pop star invoke imagery of Saturnian deities, or reference the Book of Enoch, a text long excluded from official scripture? Why stage performances that resemble ancient liturgies rather than simple concerts? Why repeat the same symbols known to appear in Masonic halls, Rosicrucian manuscripts, and Illuminati archives? Either this is a coincidence of staggering proportions, or it is deliberate, coded communication. And if deliberate, then it is not simply performance, it is participation in something far larger than the individual, something orchestrated by forces that prefer to remain unseen. It is here that art becomes theatre, and theatre becomes ritual, a ritual that millions consume without awareness, chanting along, clapping, moving to rhythms that carry frequencies designed to alter mood. This is the psychological influence of modern culture, disguised manipulation that wears the mask of entertainment. Lady Gaga may play the role of the high priestess, but the altar is the stage itself, and the congregation is the audience. Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." But even this may be only one layer of the puzzle, because when you trace the symbols beyond Gaga, you find them woven into award ceremonies, fashion shows, films, even political inaugurations. The same gestures, the same shadows, the same hidden power at work. What if the performances we celebrate are not isolated events, but fragments of a larger liturgy being enacted across the world? What if the culture we consume is the ritual itself? And if that's the case, who truly benefits from this grand theatre of the unseen? Since the flickering glow of the first television sets in the 1950s, screens have been more than just windows into entertainment. Hidden in the archives of declassified CIA files, the infamous Project MK Ultra reveals experiments with sound, image, and frequency, not to entertain, but to condition. The documents speak of subliminal frames, flashes too quick for the conscious eye to register, but powerful enough to leave imprints deep in the subconscious. Low-frequency tones capable of shifting brainwave states. What began as clandestine research into mind control seeped silently into the very fabric of mass media, altering it forever. From that moment on, television was no longer a neutral tool. It became a stage for manipulation, a silent instrument of psychological influence. As technology advanced, so did the techniques. The repetition of hidden symbols, pyramids, skulls, puppets, the all-seeing eye, no longer belonged solely to secret societies. They were broadcast into homes worldwide, woven into music videos, award shows, even children's cartoons. A dark agenda was unfolding, hidden beneath bright colors, catchy jingles, and flashing lights. The question is not whether these images exist, it's why they appear so consistently across every medium of popular culture. Have you ever noticed the strange comfort of repetition? A symbol repeated enough times no longer feels threatening, it feels familiar, and familiarity lowers resistance. When a pyramid flashes behind a pop star, when a cartoon character winks with one eye covered, When marionette strings dangle in the backdrop of a performance, the audience laughs, sings, or applauds, never questioning what is being reinforced. This is how ancient codes survive, not in temples or secret chambers, but through the rhythm of daily exposure, slipped into the unseen layers of entertainment. Forbidden knowledge tells us that rituals don't always require belief. Sometimes they only require participation. And participation can be passive. A child repeating a melody filled with subliminal cues. A family watching a live performance charged with occult rituals disguised as choreography. Millions unknowingly taking part in a symbolic liturgy every time they sit in front of a screen. This is how hidden power perpetuates itself. Control the media, control the imagery, control the mind. Write in the comments, I will not be controlled. Think about the sheer scale. Decades of programming, day after day, hour after hour, shaping tastes, desires, fears. Generations molded not by open command, but by subtle conditioning. Even laughter tracks, flashing cuts, and catchy refrains carry patterns studied in laboratories long before they were used in studios. It's not just culture, it's coding. And once coded, the psyche can be rewritten again and again, until truth itself becomes blurred. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if media has been a silent channel for mind control since its very invention, what does that say about the world we live in now, where screens follow us into every pocket, every room, every waking moment? If conditioning once required the living room, what happens when the ritual is carried in the palm of your hand, pulsing with light, sound and shadow, 24 hours a day? And more importantly, who decides which symbols, which rituals, which conspiracies are written into the code of our daily lives? The thread that binds Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and Lady Gaga is not only woven through music, fashion, and spectacle, it stretches far deeper into the realm of ancient traditions, coded gestures, and liturgies that echo across centuries. When researchers opened the so-called London archives in 2018, fragments of documents surfaced that spoke not only of celebrity culture, but of a structured network, one linking global media with secret societies that most believe belong only in myth. Names like the Rosicrucians appear, alongside references to orchestration of mass events where hidden symbols are seeded like quiet signatures, visible only to those trained to see. What if the stage is merely the mask, and the ritual lies beneath? These archives describe not isolated coincidences, but patterns, dates chosen to align with celestial events, costumes mirroring ancient codes, performances scheduled to coincide with festivals once sacred to secret orders. What looks like creativity is, perhaps, the reenactment of forbidden knowledge in plain sight. And here lies the brilliance of manipulation. Conceal the ritual inside entertainment, and the world will applaud what it should be questioning. The result is not passive art, it is psychological influence on a global scale. The dark agenda does not march in uniform. It dances on stage, it sings in our ears, it beams from screens that follow us everywhere. Think of how easily hidden power operates in the shadows. A symbol carved into stone centuries ago now flashes in high definition at the world's biggest award ceremonies. A phrase recited in mystery schools appears again in lyrics repeated by millions. Ancient codes that once required initiation are now consumed daily, but stripped of context, leaving only the hypnotic repetition. This is the essence of mind control, to normalize the esoteric, to turn ritual into trend, until resistance feels absurd and awakening feels unnecessary. And all the while, unseen hands pull the strings of culture, reshaping thought without needing to declare authority. Have you ever paused during a performance and wondered, why do I feel moved, unsettled, even entranced by something I cannot explain? That sensation is not accidental, it is crafted. Occult rituals were never designed solely for secrecy, they were designed for effect. And when amplified by sound, light, and collective participation, their influence multiplies. The truth is that entertainment, when infused with hidden symbols and ancient codes, becomes more than distraction. It becomes programming. Write in the comments, I see the signs. The London archives hint that even the most public figures are not always creators of their own art, but instruments of a larger design. A network where managers, producers, and cultural architects ensure that the same motifs repeat, regardless of the artist. Pyramids, eyes, marionettes, the cycle of death and rebirth, these are not creative coincidences, but liturgical elements of conspiracies carried out on a global stage. And the more they repeat, the deeper the conditioning sinks. The awakening comes only when someone dares to trace the pattern, to connect the shadows, to notice that the same unseen forces echo through every corner of modern culture. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper, because if a handful of names are already tied to these secret societies, how many more stand in the spotlight while serving the same hidden power? How many of the faces we idolize are players in a ritual theater we mistake for art? And if the stage is only one channel of this manipulation, where else might the ritual be unfolding right before our eyes? If you have followed this journey until the very end, you already know that what we explored was more than spectacle, more than entertainment. These are fragments of hidden rituals, traces of secret societies, symbols that repeat across decades to shape thought in silence. Knowledge like this is rarely placed in front of you. And if you sense the weight of these revelations, you understand why staying close matters. Subscribe, not as a routine click, but as a step into a path of awakening, where each new video brings another piece of forbidden knowledge into the light. Your presence here is not passive. It is part of a quiet resistance. Leave a sign that you've awakened to what lies beneath the surface. Write in the comments, "I see the hidden truth." Let that phrase echo as a mark of awareness, a signal that you refuse the dark agenda of manipulation. And if this message stirred something inside you, let your like be more than approval. It becomes a subtle pact between us, a recognition that truth deserves to be seen, even when wrapped in shadows.